Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, community and the beauty therein comes in all sorts of shapes and forms, and guess what? If you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you're in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals. We pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more, enlightened in a conversational fashion. And you know, if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you do, because let's face it, you're listening right now. And if you are listening, keep listening and subscribe. Activate your notifications. Give us a little 5-star rating on your podcast provider of choice. We're available pretty much everywhere. Places like Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, and plus we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, the Letterboxd, the TikTok, and probably a few other places that I'm forgetting in the seats for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at intheseats.ca for our latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because guess what? We love to watch it and write about it and talk about it. We love it all that much more when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please do us that kindness. Come on by and pay us a visit. On this episode, we're talking about a charming little documentary that's going to be on video on demand platforms this coming Tuesday, September 10th. It's called Happy Campers, and you know, it's the story of, well, it's a story that could really be told anywhere, but it's one of those things where if you've ever driven up and down the east coast of North America, the States really, and there are these little rusted little RV trailer park camps that are just full of character with these residents who spend summer after summer after summer after summer there, and they enjoy their lives and they pay a modest rent to do that rather than having to pay millions and millions to sort of have this coastal property. And it's one of those things that is kind of starting to fade away as the affordability of it all gets taken away from them as developers want to come in and take away these places that have been built up over generations. And it's really a portrait of really the differences of being it's a portrait of the realities that you can be rich, but you're not always going to be wealthy. And these people in these trailer parks and these trailer parks and these sort of encampments are wealthier than more people than give us credit. More people give them credit. I'm blabbering, but it's a fun documentary and it's really a touching one too. But it's from writer-director Amy Nicholson, who really sort of embedded herself and spent summer after summer and staying in one of these places and really got a sense of the environment of it all. And it's a charming, like I said, it's a charming documentary that is coming to video on demand platforms this coming September 10th. Like I said, it's called Happy Campers. If you want to be a happy camper, go rent it, go buy it, support independent cinema. It's a good thing. But first, enjoy our talk with writer-director Amy Nicholson, who put it all together, because, it's, from my estimation, it's a pretty darn good one. Well, I mean, just to kick this off, obviously, thank you first and foremost. Just thank you for the time today. I mean, just congratulations on the film. I got to watch it last night. I thought it was absolutely fantastic.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I really appreciate being on here.
Now, I mean, I guess my first question is, because obviously these people are very unique. You managed to sort of earn their trust and be fly on the wall and see this all unfold. But at the same time, I can imagine there's probably going to be similar stories going up and down either coast. Like, what made you sort of focus in here?
Well, I grew up in Baltimore, so I was very familiar with Chincoteague Island. It's a place that you go as a kid. If you grew up in Baltimore, you go to Chincoteague during the summer,
Sure.
So I knew that. My parents didn't go to a campground in the summer. They dragged us to Florida in the car, all three of us, for 24 hours. I don't know why my parents were so stupid back then, but but that was our vacation, was the classic spring break. But I knew about them, and there's a couple along the way on Route 13 when we drive south to see my dad, who is now retired on the Eastern Shore. There's a couple that you see and you just go, oh, those places look like so much fun. So yeah, I wandered in there to take pictures one day a long time ago, and I was really struck by the kitschiness of the houses and how unique they were, and all the signs and the flower beds and the stuff and each one is different, and I just fell in love with it.
Well, I mean, there's a charm to it all that can't be manufactured, and then here's the irony: they want to be torn down for something that's going to be manufactured. I mean, when did you sort of focus in, like when you heard that the place was going to be torn down, or is that sort of when you started
Yes.
focusing in?
Yeah, because I was living there. I was actually, I was so taken with it when I went in to take pictures that I don't know why it just kind of tapped me on the shoulder like 10 years later. And um, I was down the island having lunch with my dad, and I said, "Oh, go to that crazy campground at the end of the road, because it's at the end of the island. So it's in a really good spot." And so we drove in there, and he said, "Oh, this place is interesting." I was like, "Does it look like fun?" And my dad has his own house on the water, so to him, he didn't really care. Um, so I rented a cabin, and my husband came down, a few days into it, and was like, "Where have we landed?" And I said, "No, no, give it a chance." And then we fell in love with it. I bought a camper. He thought I was out of my mind. And then the first summer that we spent there, which I didn't film, that where we spent the whole summer, he really had the greatest time. So then, I thought, well, maybe there's a story here with the community. I always thought there was something about the community because the community was so special. But yeah, that when it's rumors started to circulate that developers might be interested in the property, that's when I really thought, what if it goes away? That would just be tragedy.
Yeah.
It would be tragedy. So
Well, and that's what I appreciated about this. The community was forefront. I mean, did you know early on, like that wasn't that had to be sort of the focus? Because I mean, I can imagine, especially if you're developing and trying to raise money, I can imagine there's going to be selling points of, oh, make it evil corporations, this, that, or the other. Like there was a way to spin it more marketable, I guess is maybe the best way to put it. But this really had more charm.
yes, there was. Yes, absolutely, David. It probably would have been a lot easier to get money for the film had I made this big David and Goliath story. But I kind of already did that film. I made a feature a couple years back about the rezoning of Coney Island here in New York. And it really was evil developers and the evil city politicians. I mean, the whole system is rigged, let me just tell you. And I love that film because it's part of me now, and I worked really hard on it, but I didn't want to make the same thing again. And that wasn't really my point this time. My point was more, wow, if you really stop and think about what you really need in life, it's not a lot. And the things that are really important are super undervalued in our society.
No, I mean that's absolutely true. I mean, it really does highlight sort of the genius of the fact that these people in this place who the developers or the people who are going to be there after it's been developed would look on that, oh, those are the poor people, that's the trashy place. It's like, no, but those people are happy. they're
Yes.
they're already rich, you know what I mean? It's like,
Hmm.
who the hell cares, they found
That's right.
happiness. And I mean, I'm kind of curious, as you were sort of going around and talking to everyone, was everyone sort of on board? Because I can imagine it doesn't feel like, it felt like a warm place, but not necessarily the place that would want someone, a stranger with a camera kind of in their face at the same time.
Well, I mean, I had already lived there for 2 years
Oh,
by
okay.
the time I, wheeled
You
my
were
little
well
garden
experienced.
cart full of equipment around, and everyone knew me. I took a lot of pictures with, I have an old Hasselblad, which is a box camera, which is, if you want to get a closer picture, you have to move in. So it makes it very easy to meet people, and it takes gorgeous photos. And so, during the winter, I would come home with whatever pictures I took of people, and I would frame them and send them to them and say, "Hey, see you next summer," and whatever. And so I met a lot of people that way. So people knew who I was, they knew where we lived. Um, and if they didn't know me, then I would say, "Oh, I'm the woman with the camera, and I'm trying to make sure that we all have something permanent of this place." And sometimes people would say no, or sometimes people didn't really understand. They're like, "Are you putting it on Facebook? Like, what are you doing?" People are very savvy about media these days, I think, and suspicious, rightly so.
Yeah, totally.
you know. Um, but there were people who really just poured their hearts out, and they were people that I knew really well by then. So yeah, yeah, they were friends. So it wasn't hard for me to get them to talk.
How has the reaction been for you with the film touring around? Because I mean, obviously, you're at Doc NYC and you've got some great responses everywhere you've been with it. But to me, in watching it, this almost felt like sort of the modern testament of, especially in this day and age where, with everything going on in the news and this, that, and the other, and then, everything's getting hotter and there's war over here and crisis over there. It's like, slow the fuck down. This felt like a really good call to that.
Yeah, and I hope it is. And it doesn't mean that some people haven't brought their own politics into it, which is kind of funny to me because, there's no politics in the film, um, purposely, but also not really purposely because I didn't have to take anything out because there wasn't anything to discuss because nobody talked politics down there. Um, it's not polite, I guess, you know. Um, but other than that little wrinkle, yeah, I hope people watch it and think, oh, I remember this because the timing of when I was finishing, um, I came from, yeah, so the timing of this film, I finished it right before, the COVID shutdown.
Right.
So everyone went home and there was so much like, I've done my inner thinking and I've written a song about it. And, so many people were locked down and just really thinking about like, wow, wouldn't it be great to be on an island with all of our best friends now because nobody was going to work and things were kind of up in the air. And I think there was a lot of thinking about that kind of let's get off the hamster wheel then. I sort of feel like the world has slipped back into its hamster wheel. So I'm really hoping that I hope that the film brings that message back to people, that it reminds them like, oh yeah, there's more to life than, ordering stuff, you know?
No, for sure. And I mean, it's one of those things where, I mean, even to me, it evoked memories of the, that quote unquote vacation town or trailer park that I would always go to as a kid, because I mean, so many of us have those memories. And I mean, those are the ones that tend to go first, especially when we get older and sort of get into other things. And I mean, it's such a beautiful little capsule of just a really simple and but also beautiful way to live.
Yeah, my friend Gabby said, who would never go to that place, not in a million years, but she said, "Oh, it reminded me of sleepaway camp." So then that was such a flattering because it's such a tender time, and those things tend to stay in the back of your mind for so long, and so yeah. So I hope it reminds. I think hopefully it doesn't just remind people of a memory. It reminds them of what they love. That the smell and the sound and the feeling of just being free and not really caring whether you're wearing shoes or not, that.
Well, and I mean, that kind of freedom doesn't come in a resort or in a package or something that's
No, it does not.
kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
one of those things that kind of spurts up organically. And I mean, like you say, in our sort of prepackaged society where we're too used to picking up our phones and ordering something and having it on our doorstep the next day, places like this don't happen overnight. They have to develop
Yeah.
to just sort of become what they are.
And I'm glad you said that because that's kind of one of I think that's why I'm drawn to stories like this because that's the thing I am missing. And it's too easy to dismiss and say, like, oh, yeah, well, you're just being nostalgic. Or, oh, you're just old and you just think the new generation is, whatever. Every generation thinks that the next thing. I feel like something is slipping away. And I don't think it's just my own nostalgia for my own youth. I think it's something deeper. Um, yeah. So I really hope that it touches that nerve for people.
Well, it has for me because I mean, again, I always appreciated the vacation more where it was me and friends and family sort of on a deck somewhere and just or by the ocean or just being sort of one with ourselves rather than sort of being poolside with a towel where we're getting margaritas delivered every 12 minutes. It's a different experience. And it's definitely for me
Right.
the one that's always been more memorable.
Yeah, and everything is so branded and marketed and just it's everything is so done, you know? So like you go to even you go to a hotel and there are little signs for everything or there are tie-ins with other brands and you just get so saturated with it that you kind of go, yeah, I'd kind of rather be eaten alive by mosquitoes and and make my own hot dog, you know? I don't know. I feel myself going into another direction, I guess.
Now, I mean, just to put a bow on this, obviously you could have steered this in a way that would have made it feel a little different, like we talked about earlier, but I really did appreciate the almost verite sort of style you had of just sitting back and letting these stories unfold. How important was it for you to do it like that? And how hard was it for you to do it like that? Because, I mean, obviously you've lived there for a while, you're invested in the place.
Yeah, I would say very and very. It was very important and it was very hard. Um, Not so much because I was invested in it. I didn't include so many people because I didn't want to leave anyone out or,
Right.
trying not to hurt feelings. Because there were some people that I did interviews with them and they didn't go well. And I just called them up and said, yeah, I'm sorry.
I
I
love
mean,
you, but it doesn't work. Yeah, it
yeah,
happens.
one famous one was Ricky and Coley, and they did it together, and they were so stoned. And I called them up and I said, "You guys aren't making any sense. It's hilarious, but you're not making any sense, so it's not going into the film." So that was kind of like you win some, you lose some. But I did get a lot of pushback with you know more traditional feedback that was like, "Well, aren't you going to pick like two or three people that represent the group?" And I was like, but represent the group is group. Like the group is the important part there. And it was kind of a one for all for one kind of place. And so that's why I mean, John Young, who was the editor for most of the finish, he and I really, we were just like, oh, should we take half the people out? We tried lower thirds. It wasn't right. It just wasn't right. So we kept the amount of people and we took some footage out to let each one breathe more.
For sure.
And that kind of hit that good balance. But yeah, yeah, if we had just gone like, oh, we're just going to focus on these three people and we'll have a better balance of diversity, we'll have a better balance of old and young and families and retirees. Of course we will because we'll be selective. But that wasn't the place. The place was a hodgepodge of everything and we just left the hodgepodge.
Well, and you had to because this isn't a place or a story about individual perspectives. It's about the whole environment of it all. And I mean, I think you really captured that so beautifully. But I mean, honestly, Amy, just again, thank you for the work and just thank you for the time. This is really a gorgeous piece of cinema. I absolutely loved it.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and appreciate talking to you.
Oh, likewise, absolutely. And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.